this is the information that I'm looking to get, and I'm just hiring for the information.
I have had some who weren't musicians. They were other industry professionals who wanted to learn the business. Some of them hired me just to see how I worked so they could maybe emulate it. And I'm like, hey, you know what? A paycheck is a paycheck. And if I can help you, fine. There are some people like, well, I don't want you just working with me so you could see how the sauce is made. Listen, just because you have the same recipe doesn't mean it's going to come out tasting the same exact way.
Hey, what's good? Welcome to the McCove Mindset Podcast. This week, we're sitting down with a dear friend of mine, Suzanne Paulinski. Suzanne and I go way, way, way back. She is a mindset and productivity coach. Her teachings can be found all over the place, like Huffington Post, Sonic Bids, Reverb Nation, CD Baby, TuneCore, Soundfly. Her teachings will help you to get into the correct mental space and also put yourself in a position to really move your career forward. Really looking forward to bringing you this episode. And as always, if you like what you hear, hit like, hit subscribe, leave a comment, and let me know what you think. Let's get to it. Hello, how are you? Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, my pleasure. I always love our talks.
This episode of the McCove Mindset Podcast has been a long time coming because, sheesh, I think I've asked you probably like 3 or 4 times, like, hey, you wanna be on my podcast? You wanna do an episode? And we're finally making it happen.
It's been crazy. Yeah, I'm so stoked that we're doing this.
So how has life been? What are you up to right now?
Oh man, I feel like I've been in a bubble for a while. I guess everybody has, to some extent. But yeah, I'm graduating in May, which is great. I've just finished up, my second master's and hopefully my last master's program, so that I can become a licensed therapist. That's the goal now, is transitioning the Rockstar Advocate. I'm still gonna do coaching and I'll still have my Rockstar Slackers, which is my group coaching program, but I'm going to be offering therapy sessions to musicians in the coming months. So I'm really stoked about that.
That is phenomenal. You know, there's a person who I want to connect you to. Her name is Dr. Sierra Bard.
Nice.
And she does a very, very similar practice.
Mm-hmm.
It's more based in like group therapy for musicians. She's out of Portland, Oregon.
Very cool.
But yeah, I think that you two would vibe. There's probably just like a bunch of information you could share.
I'm sure.
Lend her insights into, like doing this. And be like, hey, like these are the things that, help and these are the things that don't, so.
Yep.
That's really cool.
That's awesome.
I've noticed, I think the last time I saw you may have been at Launch Music Conference.
Yeah. Yeah.
And at that conference you took us through a tapping kind of exercise. Just for anybody who is listening who's never done it before, what is a tapping exercise?
Sure.
What is it for?
So it's called tapping, also known as EFT, the Emotional Freedom Technique. It was started in the mid-90s. The man's name is escaping me at the moment. But it's basically a mixture of meditation and acupuncture. It doesn't involve any needles. It's literally just tapping with your fingers. You can't really screw it up. But what I love about it is, especially clients of mine who maybe have ADD or ADHD. And to be honest with you, at this point in our society, I think we all have that on some level. But I always found meditation, I was always judging myself. I never felt like I was doing it right, even though you really can't screw that up either. But I was always I'm not one to sit still. And what I like about tapping is it's interactive. You're, and you're acknowledging what tapping is acknowledging the negative thought patterns or the negative feelings that we have at the moment. And the most important thing, and you often learn this in therapy, is not acknowledging the negative feelings. Just assume, I'll just stop thinking about that, or I shouldn't be thinking that, or I'm wrong because I'm thinking this way. That doesn't help. And so when we can acknowledge the negative thoughts, I always think about it like a little kid just pulling on your shirt, like, hey, listen to me. And we say, not now, what happens? They just get louder. So, and then they're, laying on their back, kicking and screaming in the middle of Macy's, and you're like, I'm trying to get out of here. And there's a toddler pulling a tantrum. So, it's the same thing with our negative thoughts. If we can just acknowledge them and embrace them and say, I hear you, I see you, I respect you. Like, I get it. It sucks. Sometimes things suck. But what can we do about it? And so through tapping, you do a whole series of tapping on 9 different parts of your upper body. You acknowledge the negative thought, and then you accept it, and you go through the tapping points again, reframing it into a more positive or productive thought pattern. And what it's scientifically been proven to do is, because you're tapping on these acupuncture points as you're saying these words, you're literally rewiring the thought patterns in your brain, so that it doesn't mean that the negative thoughts just never appear again, but they're not as active and they're not as strong. And when you do it enough, you are starting to rewire your brain to think more positively about that thing, whether it's your money mindset or your anxiety or your procrastination or your comparison to other people. When you can start to rewire those thoughts over time, and it doesn't actually take that long, you start to just, your brain gets used to thinking that positive thing first.
Yeah, it was powerful when it happened.
Yeah.
It really was.
I cry
I think
sometimes as I'm doing it, depending on how negatively I'm thinking. Like, I've cried, I've had the tingles. It can be really powerful.
so. How long does that normally take?
You can do it for as little as 3 minutes. I've done it for 15 minutes if I'm like in a crisis, if like things are really heavy. You could do it for longer, but 3 minutes or less, and like you're good to go. Yeah.
Would you be down to walk us through a tapping
Sure.
exercise at the end of the episode?
Sure, absolutely.
That would be remarkable.
Cool.
Yeah, so like I wanted to have you on, obviously for your wealth of entrepreneurial mindset. But also too, just because I think that in doing a lot of like one-to-one consultations over the last couple of years,
Yeah.
it has become very apparent to me that a lot of musicians are battling with a lot of psychological hurdles.
Sure.
That some that are very much music related, but it tends to come from like kind of a deeper core issue.
Sure.
But then those bleed in to how they create, or why they can't create, or why they can't put music out even after they've created it, or so like what are some of the issues that, like, what are your top 3 issues that are hurdles for musicians that you've encountered?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first one is definitely, just a lot of anxiety and self-doubt, and it's no surprise because we're usually surrounded by people who either don't get what we do, or they don't understand it, or they too want what we are going after, but they don't have it within them to do it. So they are now going to project on you their own self-doubts, so that in their mind, if they care about you, they think they're protecting you and saving you. But it's also in their ego, they're saying to you, like, don't do this, because then you're going to make me feel like a failure, or you're going to make me feel like I don't have what it takes. And so, people, we just instinctively like to keep the world around us the way we know it to be. So when you're in your loved ones' lives and you're like, I'm pushing for it, I'm going to make something different of myself, they're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. So it comes out as, you really think you can make any money with that? Or isn't it like really hard? Well, I mean, you have to get signed to a label to like even do anything. It's like, they don't know anything about this industry. But, them saying that to you on Easter or Thanksgiving just makes you go, oh. And then it's, now February or March, and you're like, yeah, that thing that they said to me back in Thanksgiving is still lingering in my brain. And as much as I want to be like, no, I got to get this music out, there's that fraud talk, that imposter syndrome that pops in that says, yeah, maybe it's not going to go anywhere. Or it's not like I'm signed, so who's really going to listen to this? Or I'm just, I only have 175 followers on Instagram, so it's not like anybody's going to care about this. and we just start snowballing. So, I think it's the fraud talk, whether you want to, connect that to anxiety or to lack of support around you or whatever it might be. I just think fraud talk in general is one of the biggest hurdles that I see musicians deal with. And there's so many apparent reasons why that is the way it is. But another thing that I also see is time management, which is why I started to, kind of cultivate my little corner of the industry in as a time management coach. And then I think, sorry, is this coming through really loudly? This is supposed to be a soundproof booth. Clearly it's not.
Right.
Sorry about that.
Maybe
So
from the inside and not from the outside.
yeah, awesome. So should I move rooms? Is this like really
This
bad?
might be a good idea.
Yeah, sorry.
No,
Let me
it's
just
okay.
go right next door.
We'll just do an edit.
Yeah, sorry about that.
And actually, in the meantime, while you do that, I'm realizing that the only way that phone call came through was because my phone must not be on airplane mode.
See if I can get a little further away.
There we go.
Okay. It's a little better and the lighting is better too. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay.
There's going to be a clip and everyone's going to be like, what just happened?
What just happened? She's so much
magic.
So basically, fraud talk is one of the biggest things that I see. And then the other thing is the time management, which is really why I kind of carved out that section for myself to teach musicians how to be better at time management, because there's just so much you have to do. And it can be really overwhelming, especially if you have a day job, which many of my clients have. And so it can be overwhelming, but it's really just about understanding. I always say to my clients, my goal is to make you better decision makers, because that's really what separates the successful people from the ones that get stuck, because you are bombarded with decisions every second of the day. And if you can't confidently say, that's not for me, that doesn't need my attention right now, or that's not totally urgent right now, let me go back to what I was focusing on, you're going to get so sidetracked and overwhelmed that you're not going to be able to move forward. So, for instance, yes, you need to, focus on your different income streams and making sure that you're pitching yourself and making sure that your website is updated and making sure that you're recording new music and getting it mastered and promoting it. Yeah, all those different things, but you don't have to do all those things at once. Nobody's expected to do all those things at once, and you shouldn't be doing all those things at once. There's a season to all those things. So understanding that if you're in the midst of songwriting and you're writing your upcoming album or EP or single, and somebody's throwing, trying to throw different courses at you about like updating your website or, learning better SEO to, or growing your Instagram followers. Yeah, all that could be useful to you. I'm not saying it's not worth investing in some of those things, but maybe you don't need that right now. Why don't you just focus on writing your music, because you're in your writing phase right now? And if you have other things in your life, and maybe you've got kids, maybe you've got a day job, maybe you're taking care of a loved one, we have other things outside of our music that need our attention. So you can't do everything at once. So being able to, at a moment's notice, identify your priorities, that's really key. And then the other thing that I see musicians struggling with the most is really the comparison paralysis. Like, it's really just I see so and so doing something on Instagram, or, they're killing it on TikTok, and I'm over here and, forget it. And I always say to them, like, as somebody who grew up in the 80s and 90s, like, I didn't only have Toni Braxton albums. I also had Brandy and Monica and Mariah Carey and Whitney Houston and like any other amazing R&B singer, because I loved R&B. Like, you just because somebody else in your genre is killing it doesn't mean you can't also kill it. Like,
Right.
it doesn't matter. And in fact, you two should be collaborating and helping each other. And if they don't want to collaborate and help because they
Like
have,
Monica and Brandy on The Boy Is Mine.
it's their only number one single, okay?
Let them know.
Only number one single is when they collaborated. So, there's a reason for that. And if somebody doesn't want to collaborate with you, screw them. Go somewhere else. But like, don't be so afraid of what other people are doing and stop focusing so much on it. Just keep focusing on what you're doing and what your fans want from you. And if they're supporting them too, great. Like, there's
Right.
enough room in the game for all of you. So I think those are the three biggest things: is the fraud talk, the time management, and the competition, mindset. Those are the biggest hurdles I see all the time.
Do you think that like because I think maybe in some of our business, we've been conditioned quite a bit to have a competitive mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that maybe that's the wrong way to ask that question? How do you believe that being able to see the metrics of everyone else has played into that psychology?
Oh yeah, I mean, social media has totally screwed with our mindsets for sure. And seeing all those likes, and it's like, first of all, you don't know how many of those are bots. You don't know how many of those are family members, and they might have just a gigantic family. You don't know how many are just like, oh, I've just been scrolling and aimlessly liking things that I'm not even taking in. So likes don't equal income. And like, somebody was just talking about this yesterday. They're like, yeah, I've gone viral. Didn't really do anything for me. Like, because again, it's like, just because something hit, you don't know why it hit. You don't know if it was the particular day that it hit. You have to, so focus on, I gotta go viral. That's not going to help you, just like not getting signed to a label. That if you think 10 years ago, now I need to go viral. I need to go viral. 10 years ago, all I was hearing is, I need to be signed. I need to be signed. That wasn't anybody's life jacket either, because everybody I know who's been signed was like, that was like the worst day of my life.
That was when my life changed.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and you saw a lot of that because you were working at Atlantic, right?
Right. And it's not this big life altering thing you think it's going to be. Same thing with like winning a Grammy. I've seen people who won, like, yes, that's amazing. And that's a huge achievement. But if you are depending on one thing, one particular achievement or moment to change your career, it ain't going to happen. It's not sustainable. Just like one income stream is not going to sustain you. You need multiple things. So stop worrying about, oh, I need this particular accolade, or I need this particular moment or thing to happen, or if I don't get signed, I'm not a real artist, or if I don't go viral, I'm not popular enough. Like, I've never gone viral. I'm still working full time for myself 8 years later. Like, it's okay.
No, I thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
And thank you for saying it with the fervor and
I get so heated about
the veracity. Yeah, no, I mean, because it's real too. It's like, it's real talk.
Right.
You would not be here having this conversation with me right now.
Mm-hmm.
We wouldn't be in this interaction if it weren't for my belief in everything that you just advocated for.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that because, like, this podcast is sponsored by Joyburst.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sponsored by the Joyburst Talent Search. And so the Joyburst Talent Search 2023 it's a talent search from February 15th to March 15th. And then there's a voting period from March 15th to March 30th.
Mm-hmm.
And, you enter in on TikTok or Instagram, or you could even do a YouTube short. You do the open verse challenge. And the grand prize is $10,000 cash, and there's a song publishing deal, which is a great opportunity for any independent artist. My connection into this whole thing was, obviously, I wrote a song. I wrote the song Joyburst, and then Vanilla Ice came along and sang the song, and things transpired from there.
Yep.
But in the conversation that I had with the company about music going forward for this, next quarter, there was an opportunity to say, like, I think that if you were to sponsor my podcast, that there's real value in being able to affiliate yourself and your brand with music industry professionals, especially if you care to appeal to the music audience and the independent artist
Right.
audience.
Mm-hmm.
My last podcast prior to this project was in 2019.
Mm.
My Instagram followers are a little over 3,000. My TikTok followers are a little under like 200. You know, like this, the podcast views irrelevant. They were from
Right.
3 years ago or whatever.
Right.
You know, all of that, still having the belief
Right.
that says you don't have to necessarily have the viral video. You don't necessarily have to have the 100,000 followers. You don't, you know, like those
Mm-hmm.
things, though, that you can place value on, they can be used
Right.
to draw value to yourself. It does not define you. It does not define what you have to offer.
Yeah.
And the resource that you can be for an audience.
100%. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I'll never forget, I was working with a colleague. I won't name them, but they had a client who, the colleague says to them, yeah, we're going to bring Suze on board. She's very good at what she does. She's going to help you guys like get clear on your goals and all the stuff. And they checked my Instagram. And at that point, I only had 1,500 followers. And they said, why should we work with her when we have more followers on Instagram than her?
wow.
I mean, these were young kids. So I was just like, I'm not going to slap you right now because you don't have enough life experience to realize how many wrong things just came out of your mouth. But I still met with them. And, and then of course, after we met, they were like so thankful and we had a great session. But I was like, listen, like the ignorance of everything you just said, I said, I only need 7 clients a month to sustain my business and do what I need to do. So if I have 1,500 followers and I only need 7 people a month, like why would I spend my time trying to get more followers? I have enough, but I've always had a minimalist approach. Like I live in a tiny house. It's literally 300 square feet in a driveway on wheels. Like it's minimal because I have what I need and I'm building a life on my terms. And as long as I'm happy and I feel like I'm having the impact I want to have, why am I going to continue to chase more things that aren't going to necessarily improve that impact? So I try to be very intentional with my partnerships, my collaborations, what I do and who I work with, because it's not about chasing numbers. Doesn't mean I don't go on like, man, I saw you killed it on Clubhouse. And I was like trying to give Clubhouse a try and like, you were so consistent, which is why you did so well on Clubhouse. But I found myself going, man, Kevin is killing it. And like, I can't do that. So I get like, I'm not even going to try, but like, why? Like, it still got in my head, like, man, look what he's doing. And then I was like, well, all right. So like, he's doing it. He's got that covered, like, whatever. But why? But the numbers get in our heads and they talk ourselves out of it. And it's like, for what reason? But society has trained us. There's a great Black Mirror episode about this, of like these numbers kind of following us around and being our value in society.
Oh, the social scoring on that episode is crazy.
That was bonkers.
That episode is crazy.
That was insane. And I thought to myself, like, yeah, no, like the pendulum's going to swing at some point, and we have to be able to be prepared to still find value in ourselves when like this whole social media numbers thing one day doesn't mean anything.
Right. When you're highlighting also too the value of depth over width, and it doesn't have to be depth over width. Right. It's just like they're just two different things. Exactly. Like you can go deep with someone, or you can go wide, and it depends on what you need and the value that you need to get out of it. And it's funny that you bring up Clubhouse. First of all, thank you for the compliment.
Absolutely.
On the consistency.
Yeah.
But what's crazy is that you are the reason why I was even starting things on
Yeah.
Clubhouse, because the first Clubhouse room that
Mm-hmm.
like I hosted, my first hosted Clubhouse room, it was like you, me, and I think we had one person that came into the room. It was
Yep.
my friend. It was my
Yep.
friend
I
Wellington.
remember.
And we're having this discussion about people selling their publishing and
Yeah.
stuff. And it's like a 3-person conversation
Mm-hmm.
versus one
Mm-hmm. But it
person
was
listening to
fun.
us talk about it.
Yeah.
It was so fun.
Right.
And that, like, it all starts
Right.
somewhere.
Right.
That made me feel like, hey, I know how to start a room now.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what it was.
Right.
Because when I first got on that app, I was like, I was overwhelmed.
Mm.
I was very overwhelmed. I think I like walked into a space that was far too large
Yeah.
for what I was going to be comfortable dealing with at that particular point in my time into the pandemic.
Mm.
It was like, because it felt like I was in a space with a lot of people, and I'm like, I don't know if I should be around this many people. If you're not around people, it's like I haven't heard this many voices at one
Right.
time in a long time.
Right.
I haven't heard this much discourse in a long time.
Yeah.
And you being kind enough to be like, yeah, sure, let's have a conversation about it, and us being able to do that. It's like that
Mm-hmm.
really started me being like, okay, I'm gonna open rooms, and I'm gonna try to do this every day.
Right.
And like, yeah, so thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and that's the thing though. I mean, you stayed consistent with it and you were willing to just say, I'm going to stick with this and like have the belief that, things can change and it's not always going to be 3 people in a room, even though, and that still was a fun time. And like,
Yeah.
you have to stick with something in order for it to grow, and we can't stick with everything. So it's like, find the things that you like to stick with and have faith that they will grow, and that's where it's going to happen. But if we're constantly like, oh, I'm going to like stick to doing this, oh, but that person's killing it over there, okay, I better be trying to kill it over there, it's like that is not going to get you anywhere but running in circles. Yeah.
So where do you find that independent artists have the greatest level of friction in staying sticky?
Mm-hmm. I think it just goes back to the fraud talk. I think musicians and just humans in general, but I think musicians can be their own worst enemy. It's just before things start to turn where it's starting to work and really catch on, it's, oh, this isn't catching on, so I'm just not going to do it. Or it's starting to catch on and then the pressure's on to maintain it, or to feel like, oh, well, I was fine when no one was listening to me, but now people are tuning in and that's scary, so I'm just going to stop.
Right. It's that fear of loss.
Yeah.
Right? Like, oh, now that I have something, now I can, if the
Now
next
it's
video I put out doesn't do well, I've
Mhm.
lost something.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it's such a crazy like mind frame to think about it, because we don't want to do anything when no one's showing up, but then there's safety in that because we can get messy and nobody's going to see it. But then when it starts to grow and we get what we want, but now it feels pressure to do it, and so now it's not fun anymore. It's such a, we'll always find a reason to say it's not going to work, or to say it's not worth it, or it's too risky, whether we have 0 people or whether we have 1,000 people. It's always, we're always going to find a reason to talk ourselves out of it. And it's really, again, goes back to having that belief to say, you know what, so I get a little messy, or so I misspeak, or I embarrass myself, or I have a tech issue, I'm going to do it anyway. And that's the thing. I think when we start to build a business, we forget why we got into starting the business in the first place, and we see ourselves as having, well, now I have to be an expert at business. No, you don't. You have to try. You have to want to learn how to improve. But if you're building a business as a musician, your job is to be an expert in your craft as a musician. And if your marketing gets a little wonky, you can hire that out. If you not that great at putting together Instagram reels, okay, you'll do the best you can. And so when I give a Zoom presentation and I suck at tech and something goes wrong, I used to have a panic attack about it. Now I'm like, people are coming to me for time management tips. They're not coming to me how to be an expert at Zoom. So if I screw up at Zoom, it doesn't mean I suck. It just means that's not my forte, and that's not why people are paying me. They're paying me to help them with time management. So, it's getting out of that, again, it's just getting that bird's eye view and seeing like, okay, there are all these moving pieces. I just have to try. I don't have to be an expert at all these pieces. I just have to know why I'm even attempting all these pieces to begin with.
Yes. How did you find the courage to make the attempt?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I honestly think my courage just came from hating everything else so much more. Like, my hatred for being told what to do by a boss was so much greater than my fear of trying this out on my own.
Hey, I know who your boss used to be. No, like...
He was great. We love Lou.
Yes.
But like just being told what to do and having to fall in line. I don't take well to it. I mean, I remember at 5, I was spanked because I questioned my father, and I didn't have any regrets about that. Even after being spanked, I was like, no, I still do. Like, I remember at 5 being like, you're still wrong. Like,
right. That's how we used to do it back in the 80s, okay?
Right.
Like, we would just take that lick.
Exactly. Hey, it just, I never got spanked again, but like, I mouthed off to him. I would have spanked me. I'm not going to lie. Like, I mouthed off to him because even at 5, and I remember he just said, okay, it's time to go to bed. And I looked at him because I did not agree with the time of my bedtime at 5. And I said, you go to bed. And he was like, excuse me? So it's like, but at 5, it was just still in my personality to be like, don't tell me what to do. And teenage years, you're going to tell me what to do? I'll go against it. Like, it's just my nature. So I realized it wasn't going to be too fruitful for me working for other people. So I was like, I better figure out how to do this for myself.
And that touches on something like super key, which is like knowing yourself.
Right.
Knowing yourself and like leaning into knowing yourself. Because I remember there was a time in your life where I would say, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I would say that you were out of touch with yourself. So you were working for other people and you were doing those things, and that caused health problems.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was very lost. I was a complete workaholic. I was completely burnt out. It was normal for me to have 3 or 4 jobs at a time. And, I was still trying to build my own thing. I didn't understand entrepreneurship. I didn't even get that was a separate thing other than knowing the business. It was like, you don't need to know the industry all that well. You need to understand entrepreneurship, no matter what industry you're in. That's more important. You can learn the industry. You can outsource for the industry. You can, all that stuff is fine. But
what's the difference?
Well, because I understand copyright law. I understand contracts. I understand music licensing. I understand, mixing and mastering. I can't do all those things, but I understand them. I have the behind the scenes. I have the experience. I didn't understand funnels, onboarding clients, keeping track of my money management and what my write-offs could be as an entrepreneur. I didn't understand just the business of running a business. It doesn't,
there we go.
Understanding how to do copyrights for clients. Well, that's what I was offering as services. Great. But now how do I bill them? And how do I get more clients by offering a freebie and growing my email list and sending them a welcome email and nurturing them as an email, member on my email list? That's not music industry. That's entrepreneurship 101. And I didn't know any of that. And I kept failing at being an entrepreneur. And I was like, I don't get it. I know this business inside and out. Business and entrepreneurship are 2 different beasts. And I really wished I focused less on trying to know all the different areas of the music industry, because I didn't need to know all those different areas, and just understood that entrepreneurship was its own skill set. And if I had learned that earlier, oh man, I would have saved myself a decade for sure. But I just kept thinking like, no, this has got to work because I know the industry. Like, right. What's not working? Well, I didn't have any systems in place to scale my business and to attract new clients and to put them through, a more easy, seamless client journey. to get them coming back for more. Like, I just didn't
So how do we do
understand.
that? Because I'm sure that like what you just said is like the gold. It is the gold. It just is. There's
But
so
they're
many
like,
people that
what?
they're just like, how do I?
Right,
Yes, or
right,
no. I'm sure that someone's gonna hear that and be like, yeah, that's me,
right,
right? And what I don't want to leave them with is like, yeah, that's still me.
right,
Like,
right, right,
So
right.
I of those of all of the things that you said, can we go over
Yeah,
maybe just briefly,
sure.
like, how did you like scale your business?
Yeah,
What is a funnel?
sure.
How does one nurture a what is nurturing an email
Right.
relationship or
Yeah. I would say that the biggest thing to start with is that I didn't understand coaching. Like, even though that's what I was doing and that's what I was trying to form a business in, I mean, that wasn't 10 years ago. That was not a common thing in the music industry. It's still not even that common, although there's many more of us now. But like, I didn't have the vocabulary for it. That really wasn't a thing. And so when a coach from another industry came to me and said, I can help you, and I was like, you're not even in the music industry. What are you going to teach me? Because again, I kept thinking industry specific. I wasn't thinking systems and running a business as a whole. I was like, what can you possibly teach me? You don't get it. The music industry is not the same as whatever you're doing. It's different. You don't get it. And I was very like elitist about that. And I was just like, if you're not in the music industry, you can't help me. And so finally I hit a wall and I was sick and tired of trying to make whatever I was trying to make work. And finally I called her up, and 8 years of her like trying to help me, 8 years later, I called her and I said, listen, if you could forgive me for blowing you off for 8 years, I'd really like to hire you because I am just sick of trying to do this by myself. And I invested a hefty amount of money. I'm not saying everybody needs to invest the amount that I invested. I mean, it was a nice, like, 5-figure investment. But that 5 figures put me through entrepreneurial boot camp. And I was full time in 6 months and quit my day job and never looked back.
wow.
So, I looked at it as, I've paid much more money in school. And I really looked at it as an investing in an education. And it was a semester of school. We worked together for 3.5, almost 4 months, and it was like, okay, like, teach me everything I need to know. And so, definitely I would say, my humble opinion, don't do this without a coach. It's going to take you so much longer. And a coach is because you're not just learning entrepreneurship, it's being modeled for you with what they're doing. Like, so I
Right.
learned so much faster because I saw the funnel and the journey she was putting me through. I saw how every week before our call she'd send me a questionnaire and she'd prep, so she could prep properly for our call, and I'd see how she'd shape the call and how, we'd track my progress and how the contract and the invoice were sent to me before we started, and how she accepted payments, and like all of this stuff. She didn't even have to teach me all of that. I was just being able to get an inside look at how my experience was with her. And I'm like, and then on top of everything she was teaching me, I now actually learned by doing. And when we were done, I'm like, oh, so I need my contract and I need to have an invoice ready and I need to determine what my payment policies are. And I need to determine what happens. Well, how do I know that a client is no longer a good fit for me? I need to know what is my exit strategy when it's time to fire a client, because yes, that is a thing. I have fired clients before. And so, like, what did all that look like? So, that was like the boot camp that I went through. And so I guess I will just say, don't try to do that alone. You don't need to work with a coach forever, but just get the ball rolling with a coach so that you could cut through the crap and like just make a beeline for who your audience is. It's not everybody. What exactly are you going to offer? I went from having a 7-page service list to having 3 ways to work with me, and understanding that that's more attractive than having, I could do everything for you. All that says is
Right.
I'm an expert in nothing. Like, that's all that says. So, like, understanding these basic fundamentals, And then understanding, like, yes, your email list, you don't have to have 5,000 people on it, but work more getting that off the ground first and having direct access to these people than trying to go viral on Instagram. It's not necessary. So, just making those relationships, I think understanding those fundamentals is enough to get you started.
That is such sage advice.
Somebody
It truly
who has
is.
failed many times over. These are the lessons we finally learn. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of what it is like. Is like you make enough mistakes
Right.
where you're just kind of like, all right, look, let me save you the heartbreak, let me save you the headache, let me save you the trouble.
Right.
And like, what? So I have a
Yeah.
question because likely,
Yeah.
someone has heard this and will be like, who is the coach that you worked with, and why did you choose to work with them?
Right. Great question. So Jordana Jaffe was the coach that I work with. Shout out to Jordana. She is wonderful. She's currently now running a virtual assistant agency. So if you need a virtual assistant, she now has like a whole bevy of virtual assistants that she outsources to people. So that's what she's doing now. She's no longer a career coach, but the reason I worked with her, number one, I didn't really know a lot of coaches at the time, but I trusted her because she didn't give up. When I said, like, no, I don't want to work with you, and she knew it was nothing personal, I just wasn't ready for a coach, she's like, that's cool. Like, we still hung out. We still, like, kind of were in the same community. Like, I'd still run into her at different events and different business events and stuff outside of the music industry. And she was still always very friendly to me. We'd Instagram or I don't even think that was around. I think we G chatted a couple times throughout the years.
Taking it back.
Yeah, I know, right? And so, like, I definitely got the vibe that, she just genuinely wanted to help. Obviously, I was gonna pay her a hefty fee, but, like, she was in it for the long game. She wasn't trying to make a quick buck. It was like she was in this, she had passion for it. And me personally, with her wife is a entrepreneur attorney. So she helps other entrepreneurs with their contracts and everything like that. And so with her program, it was 3 or 4 months, but it was also her wife set me up and would set up their clients with their contracts, and they're all making sure their website had the privacy notice and all the disclaimers that it needed and all that stuff. And I'm a former paralegal. I know how pricey that can be. So for me, I was like, oh, that's worth the 5 figures right there. Like, I'm now set up with contracts and my web, like, I'm good. And that stuff can last for years. So fine, sign me up. So that's what worked for me. But ultimately, I always tell potential clients with me, get on a free consultation. If a coach is not offering a free consultation, I'm sorry. I'm not on board with that. Like, it doesn't have to be an hour, but 15 minutes to just get a vibe to see if your personalities are similar. Like, I have gotten on calls with people and I'm like, listen, I know I could help you, but I know somebody else who could help you more because your personalities are similar. And their approach might be more boot camp and I'm more like mama bear. And I don't think that's going to motivate you. I think you want a boot camper. So I'm going to refer you to somebody who's going to, like, kick your butt. And that is the person for you. I'm more of, like, love them and with compassion and, like, be that bleeding heart, but, like, show you ways on how to have the pity party and dust yourself off and get to work. But that's my approach. So I know who I'm good for and I know who I'm not good for. So I have had calls where I'm like, I'm not for you. And so if you have somebody that's just like, yeah, I'll work, come with questions. Who is your ideal client? If they can't tell you that, run. If you're
there's any client.
Yeah.
Who's my ideal client? Anybody, client who's paying.
It doesn't matter. You're my ideal client. Okay, but who is that? Why am I your ideal client? Like, interview them. You're hiring them. You are the owner of your business. So interview them, meet with a few, get a vibe, go on their social media. Don't worry about how many followers they have. Look at the actual content and say, does that resonate with me? Because here's the thing. There's a bunch of different ways. Like, somebody could be saying, I'm going to get you, successful because I'm going to teach you how to grow your email list. Somebody else could be like, I'm going to get you successful because I'm going to teach you how to monetize your YouTube channel. Somebody else is going to be like, I'm going to show you how to do it by building a tour. And like, great. They all work. I'm not saying one is wrong and one is right. Do you like performing live? If you don't, that's not the coach for you. Do you like being in front of the camera? If not, that's not the coach for you. So like, is their approach resonating with how you like to do things? So, look at their content, not their followers, and see if you are like, oh yeah, what you said makes sense. And like, I want to know more about that.
Right. Yeah. So there was no hook. So that's so interesting because I'm like, there was no like essential like hook or whatever. You weren't sold in like a salesy way. You were sold through like this long relationship that built, there was like real equity in that, right? There was like real depth.
And she just like lovingly pointed out like, yeah, I just see you struggling and it doesn't have to be this way. Like, why don't we just get on a call? Like, and listen, she was savvy. Like when we got on the call, and she's going to tell me how much it cost. It was just like, she was good at what she did. Like she knew the sale, but she also, the proof was in the pudding. Like she knew she could deliver,
Right.
Yeah.
That is amazing. Yeah. I love that. 'Cause I feel like I'm always like, I am probably, this call is good for me because on a personal level, I think that I'm in the place where I could probably benefit tremendously from a coach. Yet, I don't think that I was thinking of it in the way that you framed it, in the sense that it's like you're hiring in them and they kind of work for you.
Right.
So find the right like person to hire, opposed to, this is the information that I'm looking to get, and I'm just hiring for the information. And that's kind of the wrong way to look at it. Right.
And listen, I'm 8 years in this business. I've hired multiple coaches for different things. I've hired a money mindset coach when I realized, oh, my hurdle right now is my relationship with money. I have hired a VIP coach when I wanted to offer higher ticket things for certain clients and I wanted to make sure I was doing it the right way. And like, I look at it too as like sometimes, and I've had clients be honest with me that, I have had some who weren't musicians. They were other industry professionals who wanted to learn the business. Some of them hired me just to see how I worked so they could maybe emulate it. And I'm like, hey, you know what? A paycheck is a paycheck. And if I can help you, fine. I'm not, because even if, there are some people like, well, I don't want you just working with me so you could see how the sauce is made. Listen, just because you have the same recipe doesn't mean it's going to come out tasting the same exact way. Like, it's in your approach. It's in your mindset. It's in who your audience is and who you're serving. You want to try to copy what I'm doing? Fine. I hope it works for you. But you're going to, at some point, have to alter what I'm doing so that it works for you. So, and that's where the coaching comes in. It's my job to help you figure out what is going to work for you. So, to me, I don't really care if someone wants to hire me and just kind of see how I do. I've hired people because I love what they're doing. And I'm like, what's their approach? Like, how are they disciplined in a way that maybe I'm not? Like, okay, I want an up close and personal kind of insight into their business. And you know what? That's what I'm paying for.
Like, right. It's almost collaborative.
Yeah.
At that point.
Exactly.
It's like, yeah.
Exactly.
I know that you're selling one thing, but it doesn't mean I can't purchase another.
And you know what? Money is money. And the thing of the matter is, I've never, because it doesn't work, I've never just, and they don't care because they know what I know. I've never just taken what they've done and copy and pasted it because it's not going to work. So I don't go just to steal what they're doing and then do it for myself. I go to get inspired by what they're doing and learn from it and then do something in my way that works for me. Now that I've learned a few tricks or learned a few different approaches. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And I think that translates into anything.
Yeah.
If you're an independent musician or whatever, it's like, yeah, go to another band's show. Like maybe you sit in and play keys for their band. You understand like, whoa, this is how they do rehearsal. This is how they do their set list. This is how they do their, you learn all this other stuff from being in that situation. And
same thing with day jobs too. Like I always tell people, stop bitching about your day job. Like start thinking, what can I benefit from? I worked at Crate and Barrel 2 years. I didn't expect to work there. I enjoyed the people there, but that's not what I wanted to do. But it served a purpose for me. Like I had to take a step back. I had to help my family. My father was really sick. Crate and Barrel was right near the hospital. Great. Are they hiring? Cool. Let me work there. But instead of just being resentful that I was there, I'm like, you know what? How else can this work for me besides the location? What can I learn? We had to go through as managers, we had to go through training in their branding, in their selling, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to use this. So I might as well pay attention and take notes because this is a gigantic company. And if this is what they're doing, I'm sure I could learn a thing or two. So let me shut up and just find the usefulness in it because I'm here anyway.
Yeah. That's a beautiful way. That's a beautiful, beautiful way to look at it. Just to like really extract the positives out of all of the situations, regardless of how they may be impressed upon you.
Exactly.
At first glance.
Yeah.
So you wanna do the tapping?
Okay.
I'm with it.
All right. So I will preface this with I'm not the best at it. I'm okay, but I will say if you guys want to continue this, the Tapping Solutions, that's what it's called. The Tapping Solutions is a free app and a free YouTube channel. I'm not affiliated with them. I just love them. That's my go-to. So just be aware if you want somebody doing a little bit better. But okay, so relax your shoulders. It doesn't matter. Whatever feels comfortable, left or right hand, whatever feels more natural to you. You're going to take 4 fingers and tap on the karate chop point, the side of the other hand. Let's take a few deep breaths in. For all those listening, and Kevin included, you can repeat after me or just think it to yourself. Doesn't matter, whatever you're comfortable with. We're going to start with, Kevin, I'm going to ask you to give me like a negative thought or a worry or a stress that might be ruminating.
I'm not going to get to play basketball later today.
Okay. Deep breath in and out. I don't get to play basketball today, and I resent that.
I don't get to play basketball today, and I resent that.
But I'm choosing to love and accept myself.
But I'm choosing to love and accept myself.
I'm really annoyed that there's no time in the day for basketball.
I'm really annoyed that there's no time in the day for basketball.
But I'm choosing to accept that is my day today.
But I'm choosing to accept that is my day today.
Okay, now we're going to move to the eyebrow point. 2 fingers right above your eyebrow. Oh, it really sucks that I don't get to play basketball today.
It really sucks that I don't get to play basketball today.
We're going to move to the side of the eye, the temple. I hate when I don't get to play basketball.
I hate when I don't get to play basketball.
Underneath the eye, a little hard with glasses sometimes. Breathe out. But I choose to love and accept myself.
But I choose to love and accept myself.
Under the nose. I know that today will pass.
I know that today will pass.
And I'll have another opportunity to play basketball.
And I'll have another opportunity to play basketball.
Under the chin. Today was not a perfect day. But I understand.
Today was not a perfect day.
But I understand and accept that.
But I understand and accept that.
Now we're going to take 4 fingers on each hand and on the collarbone. I really prefer when I'm able to play basketball.
I really prefer when I'm able to play basketball.
It allows me to de-stress.
It allows me to de-stress.
And have more fun in my life.
And have more fun in my life.
Under the arm. Breathe out. I know I can still have fun and have a good day without basketball.
I know I can still have fun and have a good day without basketball.
Top of the head. And I know that I'll soon get to play basketball, just not today.
And I know that I'll soon get to play basketball, just not today.
Back to the eyebrow point. Days aren't as fun when I don't get to play basketball.
Days aren't as fun when I don't get to play basketball.
Side of the eye. But basketball isn't my only source of fun.
But basketball isn't my only source of fun.
Under the eye. And it's not the only source to release my stress.
And it's not the only source to release my stress.
Under the nose. And I know I can still have a good day today.
And I know I can still have a good day today.
Under the chin. I accept that basketball didn't happen today.
I accept that basketball didn't happen today.
But today can still be a good day.
But today can still be a good day.
On the collarbone. I love so much about my life.
I love so much about my life.
And basketball is just a part of it.
And basketball is just a part of it.
Under the arm. I really look forward to when I can play basketball again.
I really look forward to when I can play basketball again.
But I'm still grateful for the day I have today.
But I'm still grateful for the day I have today.
Top of the head. I look forward to playing basketball again another day.
I look forward to playing basketball again another day.
While still being grateful for today.
While still being grateful for today.
All right. Just shake it out. Feel the tingles. And you can do that about anything.
That shit is so awesome. You know, I don't know. Look, part of this is the combination of your awesome voice, right? Like, it's so soothing. And I hope that anybody who was watching did the exercise too along with us. But really, it's like, it's the framing of the words too, right? Like, the touching helps me be like here.
Right.
And actually paying attention to what I'm saying.
Right.
And then it's also like the repetition of it as well. But then I'm like, man, was I really just feeling so salty about it? Because I saw your face change when you saw my face change. You were like, oh yeah, he just felt it. Like,
the turning point happened. But the thing is, that's what I love about tapping, because that first go through, you're not like, why am I even complaining about that? No, it sucks. It sucks.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay to acknowledge it. It's not about, oh, these are first world problems, or, oh, I suck for even like thinking that is something to get upset about. Why? It's okay. Both things can exist. You can still be grateful for the day you have, but also just acknowledge it. Like, I would have liked to be able to play some basketball. Like, it's okay. And, you know, one of the things that they say on the tapping solution, I was trying to work it into today, but it didn't work with the current focus that we had. But, you know, if you were doing it on something like, if you're really like stressed out about a meeting or something like that, one of the phrases they use in the tapping solution that I absolutely love is, I cannot stress myself to a solution. And one of the other phrases they use is, just because I still care even if I'm not anxious about something. Because it's like we hold on to that stress and anxiety as like a definition of our passion. But it's okay to let that anxiety go and not feel like we're also letting go of caring about it. And so I love when they do that in the reframe. They're like, I cannot stress myself to success. And it's like, oh yeah, just because I give up stressing about it doesn't mean I don't care. It just means I know I don't have control about it. So why waste that? Put that energy elsewhere. Yeah.
I'm going to apply that to life later.
It really?
I already know.
So good.
Because it's so true. Yeah, you definitely, I mean, at least I can say personally, you know, where I'll be like, I can stress myself into a solution. Like, I think that's almost like my goal. Right. I'm like, you know what? I need to stress about this more.
Right. That's what we tell ourselves. Like, you know, I'm born and raised Queens. Like, we're workaholics by nature. We're just like, if you just push harder. And that's such a tenet of the music industry too. Like, working at the major labels, they're like, if you just work more hours, the solution will come to you. And then it's like, wow, I still get that old habit in my head. But the other day, I actually just went to bed. And then I was like, oh, in the morning, I realized what the solution was. So it's like, we forget, just because we turn off the computer, we walk away, doesn't mean it's not processing. Rest is part of the work, but we don't talk about it like that. It's like rest and work. No, rest is the work. Like, it's a piece of it, and we need it.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you brought that up, because I personally, I needed to hear that right now.
Yeah.
You know, I'm under a significant amount of stress due to some other project. Hence why I wanted to play basketball. I'm upset that I can't play basketball, because it's like how I like to distress.
I get it.
And I'm like, I know that this is a particularly high degree of stress, because I'm like, yeah, I gotta take a nap. I'm a big napper. And I know that through naps I get solutions.
Right.
I'll be like, have to come up with something, and I'm like, I'm gonna go to sleep for like 30 minutes. Because I know. I know it's like a superpower.
Right.
I'm like, yep, I'm gonna take a nap. When I get up, I'm gonna be ready for this. And I have not napped. I have literally been in the mindset that's like, it's okay if I stay up for 5 more hours. Like,
right.
That's exactly how I've been.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on here.
Thank you for having me. And for not giving up on me when I couldn't make it in the bed.
It's okay. I would never give up on you. Well, the same way your coach didn't give up on you, right? Apparently you have, this magnetism.
My therapist says I'm a slow digester. I need to... I get there eventually.
Let's go. Well, thank you so much for being on the episode. I truly appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.